After getting ground to a fine powder in my last PvP compilation, you fine folks gave me some advice. You said, find somebody to play with. So my friend and I started playing together. You said, build a coalition deck. So I built not just one, but 2 coalitions decks. And you said, I wish more people documented their start in multiplayer, so I'm going to show you my next 10 matches in Wargame Red Dragon multiplayer.
This is my 11th game on my journey to 100 multiplayer games, and this is the first game I'm playing with my friend. At no point in this video will I be keeping track of what decks he's using, but I'm using my new Land deck. My friend has a lot more experience than I do with Wargame in general, and especially multiplayer, so in a lot of these games I'm the weak link. We do pretty well in this game though, mostly because our opponents seem to rely heavily on very cheap tanks like the T-34. Because those tanks aren't very powerful, they end up getting defeated fairly easily, even by dismounted infantry. For instance, watch this ambush.
Formation und einsatzbereit.
We get an early and hefty lead in command points that the enemy can't stop, and we win 500-0. I'm going to warn you right now, it goes downhill from here. In this match, I'm playing with my Eastern Bloc deck. I make a mistake right at the start by mishandling my units as they move towards Leonid sector. I've got too many individual units, and I forgot what I'm supposed to be doing with them, so by the time they get into position, I have a jumbled mismatch of units, and no one is where they're supposed to be. For example, these mortars should not be in the side of the sector closest to the enemy. Because I am simple, like Forrest Gump, the Volksjäger 90 can enter into Leonid and begin rolling up my units from the inside. My teammate makes a valiant stand on the right half of the map, but you can see that a salient has formed and then the enemy is splitting us in 2. This is a theme that will repeat itself. The enemy gets a brutal plus 5 point income lead that we never reverse, and the game ends 500-14. Devastating. I decided to give my buddy a break from carrying me through matches and played with a stranger against...
Wait, what?
The Kim family? Anyway, this match got off to an auspicious start with our team getting an early lead in command point income. After consolidating my sector for a bit, I start moving into the next center and suddenly run into an enemy super heavy tank. That's a 170 point T-90 Sierra. However, that super starts getting a little too close to my guys, which means he's visible to my team. My teammate has the presence of mind to call in his Nighthawk and turn the T-90 Sierra into a very expensive crater. I basically spent the entire match feeding my soldiers into a meat grinder, trying to take Bravo sector. However, while I'm screwing around in Bravo, my teammate is making a bold flanking maneuver through the right side of the map. I feel like I recognize this from somewhere. With 20 minutes remaining, and even though they're regaining momentum, the elder Kim surrenders, followed by his grandson. So that's another victory. In game 14, I'm playing with a bunch of randos in a 3v3. This match lasted less than 10 minutes because it fell apart that fast. I tried going up the middle towards Foxtrot, got an early kill on one of their bombers, which felt nice. I started fighting it out with the enemy while ignoring my growing point float. 5 minutes in, I'm completely blown out of Foxtrot, and so is my teammate on the left. My first teammate taps out 7 minutes in, and then the enemy starts moving towards our base sector, so we're in trouble. I let my inherited CV get destroyed, so now we have no way to bring in more units. My boy on the left makes a valiant effort, but his last CV gets destroyed, and that's all she wrote. So in game 15, I decided to join a 10v10 with 3,200 starting points, which is just absolutely crazy. I mean, look at the starting units. I don't even know what to do, so I load up on aircraft and super heavy tanks and just throw my guys into the fray. Meanwhile, I also decided to contribute something to the naval battle. My guys have gotten blown out of Juliet, so I'm trying to bring in infantry into these little strips of trees, which doesn't seem promising at all. You can see that my aircraft are almost all gone, and my whole team has been pushed back to the near side of the river. I tried to fight the good fight for a bit longer, but then my last teammate dropped out, so I decided to call it, which brings me great shame. Now, I want to do a little bit of a deck overview really quickly. If you're not interested in seeing my decks, then you can skip ahead to the next part of the video. So first off, this is my Land Ute or Land Jut. unspec deck. I'm not really sure how to pronounce it. So very basic. We'll just go down each tab. So logistics, I've got a dismounted command unit truck that has no armor whatsoever, but I think these are fast and they get into place quickly, so I like them. And then just a truck and a fob. For infantry, I got a 15-point infantry in a cheap transport, and then I got a 20-point infantry in a 20-point transport, which is the Martyr 1A1. I like this because it comes with ATGMs and kind of a 20 millimeter gun. I don't know if that counts as an auto cannon. Then I got my 2-man ATGM squad. I've also got a 5-man ATGM squad, and then I've got my special forces Fallschirmjäger, and those are in the Milan, the ATGM carrier with the Milan F1. These guys have the 20 millimeter autocannon, and then these guys also have an ATGM. So heavy on the ATGM transports, not so much on the autocannon. For support, I just got this is mortars, standard mortars. We got a radar spag. We got a radar anti-air missile, and then we got this big artillery piece for kind of more precise artillery. I did have a Lars multiple launch rocket system, rocket artillery piece, but I just don't like using those much, so I switched it out with the SKH. For tanks, my super is the 170-point Leopard 2A5 with its 22 points of front armor, 70% accuracy, and 23 points of AP power. I just like it. Then I've got some mid-range tanks like the 70-point Kyler, the 65-point Leopard 1A5, and then the Leopard 2A1, just giving me options for when I don't really want to pull out the super, but I still need tank support. Recon, I've got a 10-man recon squad in a Lynx. I don't really like using helicopters at all, so I don't know why I'm doing this. Probably change those out in the future and in future decks. Then I've got my friend Speer, special forces, small unit that's 2 folks with a sniper rifle. That's basically just for sneaking around the map and trying to get close to their base sector. Then I got these cool helicopter and a truck. So use the helicopters a lot for recon, and the trucks are kind of just to get out to my flanks and move into position. They're very not survivable, and they don't have a weapon. Only thing in my vehicle tab is this fire support vehicle, the Flak Panzer M42A1. It does some fire support stuff, not super well, but it is cheap. For helicopters, I've got an ATGM helicopter. I've got a kind of fire support helicopter, and then I've got a anti-helicopter helicopter that I bust out to fight other helicopters. And then for my air tab, I've got my sweet Seed aircraft, which is the Tornado ECR, very expensive, 150 points. I got an up-vetted air superiority fighter, my 100-point F4 Peace Rhine, which if you've watched any of my campaign videos, is this is like the Peace Pheasant from the South Korean side, but for Germany, or West Germany rather. So this has both air-to-air and anti-tank capabilities. And then I got the Draken bomber, which is not one of the better bombers around, but that's what we got. And then we got the naval tab, which let's admit nobody cares about. So moving on to my Eastern Bloc, which is Czechoslovakia, Poland, and East Germany. I always forget that the Poles were, part of the Red Four during this time period, which always takes me a second. But anyway, so we got, again, dismounted infantry, because that's what I like. We got a little truck, supply truck, fob. For infantry, same kind of deal as with my other deck. We've got like a bad, 15-point infantry. But this one I have in a 25-point carrier. And then we got a 20-point infantry and a 5-point carrier. So kind of same basic topic. I have two kinds of infantry. one in good carrier, one in bad carrier. Although in this one I have them kind of mixed up as far as having the slightly worse infantry in the good carrier and the slightly better infantry in the bad carrier. Then I got a 2-point, anti-infantry or anti-armor squad. I got these guys. This is like a very cheap anti-armor, but they've got an ATGM in their carrier. And then I got my sweet Commandosi Polish SF, which are in an MI-17, which comes with rockets. So that's pretty cool. Supply, same deal. Mortars. Except in this one, I've got a... What is this thing? Oh, yeah, this is my rocket artillery, which I never switched out. I ended up not playing with the Eastern Bloc deck a lot, so I didn't really fine-tune this as much. I got just a regular, non-radar anti-air missile situation here. And then, the Cub M4 is my missile. This is a radar missile. And then this is my Spag, which comes with some IR missiles. So kind of a dual use deal, which is pretty good. My super here is the T-72 Moderna, which everybody talks trash on online. It's not great, but it did pretty well for me in one of the games. So that's 21 points of front armor with 23 AP power. Then for some of my mid-range things, I got the Polish T-72 M1 Wilk, the sweet KPZ, which comes with ATGMs as well as a main cannon. And then we've got this thing, which is a T-72 M1M, which also comes with anti-tank missiles, which is pretty cool. Recon tab, I got my... let's see, what is this? This is just a recon squad of 10 folks. Same deal, got my guys with the Dragunov sniper rifle for going around the sides and trying to find the enemy command vehicle. I got a very cheap recon tank, if you could call it that. And then I've got this sweet helicopter, which is kind of expensive. Got 60 points, but it's got exceptional optics. Vehicles, I just got this weird fire support vehicle, which is kind of like an anti-air gun, but it's also got a main cannon. That's kind of cool. Helicopters, we got this is like a multi-purpose. It's got rockets, it's got a gun, and it's got air-to-air missiles, which is pretty cool. ATGM and air-to-air, and then we got 2 sets of air-to-ground missiles. So that's pretty cool. I wish I had used this deck more in these 10 games, but I didn't. We got our air superiority fighter here, 135 points. Then this is our ATGM, multi-purpose because it's got ATGM and then also air-to-air. We got another one that's kind of multi-purpose. And then we got the Delphine, which has these 250 kilogram bombs, and that's our bomber. And then of course again the naval tab, which nobody cares about. It's got whatever. Who cares? All right, and that's my decks. I hope you enjoyed those.
Surprise! I'm playing Landjet again with the Rando. One of my opponents has 2nd lieutenant rank, which in the real world doesn't mean anything, but in Wargame it's at least decent. I head toward Gulf and run into a lot of vehicles laying down the Scunion. Clearly, my command unit is not long for this world when the T-80 and VDV roll up on him. So, 5 minutes into the match, I'm completely knocked out of Gulf and just hoping to prevent an incursion into my base. A firefight ensues, and I finally stop the rapid advance. Due to the pressure I'm under, my teammate throws in the towel, and now I'm in control of all of his units. The old 1v2. I decide to pull a sneaky and go cap Bravo sector, and now I'm up on income. But then the opponents capture another sector and kill my income lead. And then something very bad happens. So now I can't bring in anybody else, although I keep fighting just out of spite. Then I decide to not draw this out any longer and surrender. All things considered, I think that went fairly well. Back to playing with my friend here. We're starting off split between 2 command sectors, which makes for a pretty easy delineation of who should go where. However, this leads us into a mistake that proves very costly for us. I start moving out to the midpoint between Hotel and India, but the enemy gets there first. By the time my infantry gets up to the battle, the enemy already has positions in the buildings, and for some reason, I brought my mortars all the way up to the front line, and they get bopped immediately. I start trying to move my guys across to occupy the rest of the town, and it goes disastrously. It's only watching this footage now that I realize that there was really no reason for me to take that town I'm trying to get into. I could secure Hotel without taking the town, and there's another road leading into India. Meanwhile, unbeknownst to us, the enemy is preparing to occupy Echo and drive a wedge between my teammate and I. Once that happens, we are absolutely stuck and can't get across the river to dislodge them. Then it's just a matter of time until the enemy has enough points to win. Playing on a big map this game, this time we decide to make sure our flanks stay linked up, learning from our failure in the last game. This game mostly becomes a battle over a series of forests in this one sector. The sneaky devils from the other team manage to get a recon helicopter over to our base and start calling in fire on my command vehicle. Shame on me for not moving it once I realize what's going on. I get pushed out of Gulf and the enemy takes it, so now they're up on command points. It turns out I kept recording so you can see me and my buddy watching the game replay so we can figure out where we went wrong. Highly recommend that. This may surprise you, but I do some real brain-dead stuff at the start of this match. I've been grouping my units at the start of the game and then splitting them as they get to their positions for greater control and dispersion. Except in this case, I hit turn off weapons instead of split. Yes, I know hotkeys are a thing. I do manage to frantically turn all their weapons back on in time to destroy some enemy infantry. I also just put my CV out in a town, forgetting that vehicle CVs don't become hidden in towns, so it gets bopped. I still managed to do an okay job holding onto my sector, but the enemy team has a +3 command point income lead, so it's just a matter of time before this game falls apart. I accidentally kept recording again, so now you can see me getting blasted not just in Wargame, but also in Company of Heroes.
Oh my god. Oh no.
Believe it or not, I'm not playing with Landjet this time, rather I'm using my Eastern Bloc deck. But I did forget to record the match, so I had to record the replay. The basic gist of this game is that we fought it out with the enemy team for a long time on the left side of the map while we stared at each other over the river on the right side of the map. The problem for us was that because of the mountain range, we had to travel through this plain to get to the left side of the map, where we could be targeted by the enemy, whereas the enemy could approach that part of the map safely and from multiple directions. This is basically how interior versus exterior lines work. Eventually, we start getting blown out of the town on the left side of the map. I finally decide to try something new and cross over on the right side of the map where I don't think the enemy has many troops. And as you can see, they don't. Some of my amphibious vehicles don't quite make it, but I eventually secure a foothold on the other side of the river. If I had been able to exploit this, it would have been great for me, but my guys run into trouble. Despite a valiant effort, we run out of points. So there you have it, another 10 multiplayer games in Wargame Red Dragon, of which I only won twice. If you like this video, please click the like button to show me, and if you want to see more of my suffering, subscribe to my channel. Until next time, this has been Rage Quit with Travis.